Hello everyone, we're going to dive right in. My name is Rob.
And I'm Brittany.
And we are parents of 3 boys diagnosed on the autism spectrum. You'll see footage of them throughout their lives in this video. My wife and I love our boys and want to help educate others about autism, especially autism myths, so those on the spectrum can have better lives. And just so we're clear in this video, autism is a spectrum, so you may have different experiences than us, and that's okay. Brittany's going to get things started, so take it away, love.
Starting off with myth number 7, autism is nonverbal only. Yes, there are many people who still believe autistic people cannot talk, and if someone does talk, they are automatically disqualified from being on the spectrum. Part of this, I think, is due to the media portraying autism a certain way. It also may be because it's an obvious sign of autism. If someone is mute, then obviously something is going on in their lives, and it's an easy way for outsiders, who know little about autism, to pick up on it. As many of you know, our oldest son Ian was almost completely nonverbal until about age 4, and then he used a few sentences at age 5. Then, with ongoing speech therapies and lots of patience, he finally broke out of his shell, and now he can hardly get in a word edgewise, which is great considering where he was. My point is, sometimes nonverbal autistic people will find their voice, so we hope that if you see someone autistic who is talking, you won't discredit them.
Myth number 6, you can cure or fix autism. Here's a controversial myth. Some people wholeheartedly believe that you can cure autism like you can cure a head cold. Even yours truly, when first told our son was autistic, thought it was some rare disease that would have some kind of miracle breakthrough in the future. Yes, even we can make mistakes, but we know much better now. We can't produce a video without someone leaving a comment that an herbal treatment or radical therapy or even bleaching cured their autistic loved one. Now, are there diets, therapies, and other methods that can help people on the spectrum with their challenges? Absolutely there are. But these methods don't fundamentally alter their genetic makeup. Autism exists in the brain, and unless you can accurately rewire someone's brainwaves, there is little hope for a so-called cure, and many people even do damage to their loved ones when taking risky fringe advice or using quack methods. It may be frustrating, but it's best to remain patient when it comes to research and breakthroughs. Unless you want to treat your loved one like a guinea pig, please don't try to cure them.
Myth number 5, everyone has a little bit of autism. Boy oh boy, is this another controversial one. What makes this extra challenging is that there are people truly in need of an autism diagnosis but won't get one because they think autism is overdiagnosed, or they think autism is just a trend social media influencers are latching onto for attention, or they think some people are just lazy enabling parents who are hiding behind autism as an excuse for bad behavior, or some parents self-diagnose their kids because they have Munchausen by proxy. All of these scenarios can have grains of truth to them depending on the situation. Are you confused yet? Yeah, it can be very frustrating. And the people who are really getting hurt by all of this confusion are those on the spectrum who actually have real needs and require real therapies and possibly even medication. So I'll try and keep this simple. Saying everybody has a little autism because we all have different brains is like saying everyone has cancer because we all have moles or skin tags or freckles. It undermines those who are actually suffering or in need, those who have real challenges. Also, if everyone has autism, then no one really does. What's the point in labeling something as different or diagnosing it if everybody has it? We would all know it's just a part of life, like fingerprints or DNA, and it wouldn't be worth mentioning. But autism is so much more than just the brain functioning a little differently. To those on the spectrum, it's fundamentally different and impacts them heavily, both good and bad, compared to neurotypical people. An example could be just because you tried walking on your tiptoes when you were little, this doesn't necessarily mean you're autistic. People on the spectrum will keep walking on their tiptoes, sometimes into adulthood, and do it every day, which can cause real issues for their leg muscles, posture, and bone growth. See the difference? As we say in our other videos, when it comes to autism signs, note the frequency and intensity of the behavior. If it's once in a blue moon, then it's probably not autism. If those behaviors are an everyday occurrence, then it could be autism. Finally, when in doubt, please seek a professional diagnosis from a licensed psychologist, neurologist, or social worker if you can. Generally, they will use the DSM-5 criteria when diagnosing and can answer many questions that you may have.
Myth number 4, all people with autism have a special power or skill. While the savant stereotype is becoming more outdated, this is still a comment we see from time to time, probably due to media loving autism for the sake of storytelling, such as the Rain Man with his ability to count cards, or Sherlock with his ability to rapidly solve cases, or the accountant who can detect mathematical anomalies with pinpoint accuracy. Yes, this kind of storytelling can advance a plotline more quickly, but it can also mislead others into thinking that autism is always some kind of special ability. Now, don't get me wrong, there are many on the spectrum with amazing abilities. My son Connor, for example, is a stop-motion guru and is picking up on playing the piano insanely fast. But it's not a given trait for autism, just like being nonverbal is not a given trait.
Myth number 3. Autistic people lack compassion or sympathy. This one's a little more challenging because even people who have a loved one with autism in their family may tell you that they are distant, cold, or won't even hug them. Believe us when we say that we know the struggle. Our oldest son doesn't like being touched, for instance, but this isn't because he lacks empathy. This is due to him not liking the sensation of being touched a lot. However, sometimes he prefers compression hugs when he's stressed out. Our youngest son on the spectrum loves hugs and kisses to a fault. He still acts like a toddler and hops on our laps, even though he's the size of some teenagers. So it really depends on the individual, and sometimes people on the spectrum are overly compassionate to the point of being neurotic, and they worry too much about what others think or feel. My oldest really struggles when he hears about anybody suffering, even complete strangers. He becomes downright codependent with those suffering and can cry or even have an angry meltdown if he fixates on things too much. Our hearts break for those who have a loved one on the spectrum, who won't hug them or tell them that they love them. But make no mistake, it's generally not because that person lacks empathy or love. It's because they hate touch, or are so focused on their imagination that they shut others out. Or they may have difficulty speaking. Things aren't always what they seem when it comes to autism.
Myth number 2. Having autism is bad or makes life incomplete. Now, when it comes to autism advocates, we are some of the most forthcoming. We haven't sugarcoated experiences with autism meltdowns, or how many things get broken, or the learning struggles, or anything else. Yes, autism can be a sincere struggle, one that many people dread when they first hear anyone suggest they have autism. Some parents are in denial and won't get their child help because they are so afraid. But here's the thing, it's nothing to be afraid of. Yes, challenges conjure up stress, but that's true of any child. Maybe it's a rebellious teenager who gets pregnant too early or gets involved in drugs or criminal activity, or maybe they don't want to follow your beliefs or reject an offer to a school you prefer, or whatever. Everyone comes with challenges. Autism gets a bad rap because those challenges are so foreign to what's expected in the mainstream, but it doesn't mean those challenges are worse than or greater than. They are just different. In many cases, autism can be a blessing. Our oldest son is so strict in his honesty, he will tell us if he took one cookie too many. How many teenagers are honest with their parents? Our middle son, Connor, looks forward to piano practice and gets upset when he has to break for dinner. Some parents would dream for that kind of focus in a child. Our youngest son, Alistair, is so upbeat that even when there are warranted times for discouragement, his smile will burst through like sun after a rainstorm. He's about the happiest kid I've ever met. Does that sound bad? Does this sound like a death sentence or that life is over? I certainly don't think so, and as parents, we have no regrets. Give autistic people a chance. They will surprise you.
Myth number 1. Autism looks a certain way. Another variation on this is when people say, well, you don't look autistic. The problem with this myth is that it assumes autistic people have certain traits only, or they will have visible markers like Down syndrome people have, or that autistic people will have a wheelchair and chew toys and so on. While we actually produce videos showing signs of autism that display certain attributes, such as rocking or stimming with hand movements, this does not mean that it's the only way autism is experienced. As I'm sure many people in the autism community will readily tell you, there is also something called masking, otherwise called camouflaging or passing. All this means is that someone who's autistic is trying to look normal, for lack of a better term, by blending in and hiding their autistic traits such as vocal noises, arm flapping, tiptoeing, and so on. We encourage our boys to be themselves and tell them that they don't have to mask, but our oldest 2 boys do it anyways. The desire to fit in to society and be accepted is a strong emotion. And unfortunately, this can mean that you may be looking at someone who is autistic but is hiding in plain sight. We did a video about this, and we will leave a link above if you want to learn more.
And that's all for now, folks. Are there any myths that you're aware of that need addressing? Let us know in the comments. And with that, thanks for watching the video.